What's up, guys? So this is going to be the last 2 days of my powerlifting training. I have been fighting a taper for a long time now, and I finally decided that I must do it. I got a taper and test this week. It's just been an absolute grind for about 3 weeks now, so hopefully I'm good in overreach and I can reap the benefits of that, but I'm not going to fight anymore. Anyway, these last 2 days, this first session you're going to see was a 5x4 on squats at 375 pounds, a 5x6 on bench at 245 pounds, and an 8x1 on deadlifts at 440 pounds. And the squats themselves were an absolute grind. Really, both days the squats were big time grinds, and even though when I watch the footage here, they look fine, they look good, they look clean, everything looks fine on them, but in my mind they were absolutely brutal. I was fighting my body hard these last couple days, and it felt like the weight was moving extremely slow. It felt like I was getting very close to failure, even though when you look back, the weight moved just great and I probably had plenty more in the tank, but my body is just fatigued. So I'm gonna taper. I'll probably taper at least all this week, and then I'm gonna go ahead and test. Depending on how I feel, I'll either test on Friday or I'll wait until that next Monday, depending on how things are going, but I wanna make sure I'm good and recovered prior to testing. Here's my bench press. 5x6 did not go well at all. My high rep work has been going much worse than my low rep work. My 2s have actually felt really good, but my 6s have just felt like crap. And this was actually the last set of the bench pressing on this day, and I got to my 5th rep on this one and realized there is absolutely no way that I'm getting a 6 pause rep up, so I went ahead and cheated a little bit and did a touch and go rep at the very end and was able to block it out, thankfully. Otherwise I would have done the Matt Does Fitness roll of shame. But I got it, but it was a struggle. I was just dying. So tired. You can see me shaking my head. It's just like I couldn't believe how difficult everything was. And then deadlifts felt like crap too. They looked okay. This is 440 pounds and it felt like it was about 470 pounds. And it just felt so slow in my mind. I was really struggling with it big time. And you can see some frustration out of me. I just was getting really upset with how difficult it really was. But again, doesn't look too terrible. So thankfully I did have a bit of a breakthrough on my deadlifts in my last session, which I'll talk about once I get there. But here it wasn't going quite as well. It looks okay, but definitely not as good as it could be. Now, next session, this is from Saturday. This was a 5x6 at 355 pounds for squats. I also did a 6x2 on bench at 290 pounds and a 3x1 on deadlift, did some heavy singles at 470 pounds. Now the squats themselves, these were probably the most difficult squat sets of my entire life. I'm not even kidding. Even the AMRAP set that I did last week at 415 pounds felt like a breeze compared to these 355 pound squats. Unbelievably difficult. I was fighting it the whole time. I was so tired, so fatigued. The weight felt like it was just crushing me down, and I was really beginning to wonder if I could even get the reps at all. But when I look back on the footage, once again, they move just fine. They look good. I'm perfectly happy with these squats, the way they look. I have nothing to complain about whatsoever, but man, they feel like absolute garbage. Thankfully on this day, Lane did show up, and he kind of helped me with those last couple ones. He kept my motivation a little bit higher when he came over and kind of gave me some tips as I was going, and kind of yelled at me a little bit. And really, that probably is what allowed me to push all the way through, because I don't know on my own if I would have gotten all 6 reps. I guess I probably would have, but it was definitely good to have that extra push. And he keeps reminding me about my breathing. I keep struggling with my breathing. I'm not taking enough air into my belly. I'm doing a much better job now of keeping my air all the way through the entire rep each time, but I'm not getting enough to have a really good proper brace. So he keeps reminding me of that. You'll see him here in a second come up and say, big deep breath, and came over, spotted me at the end and pushed me a little bit, and I was very thankful for that, because I definitely needed it on this day. I'm telling you guys, just brutal, brutal, brutal. But we all have days like this, we have weeks like this, and when you're pushing yourself into overreaching territory, it's going to be like that, but you got to know it's for the greater good. These types of days are what make champions, man, and I'm happy I was able to push through.
You know the feeling? Oh God, I need to taper.
Now actually, as I mentioned before, my twos are going a lot better. This is the 6x2 at 290. I only show a couple sets. I actually got a spotter at first because how bad my squat went. I just had no clue how the 290 was going to feel, and it actually felt really good. It felt great. It went up no problem, so no need for a spotter anymore. And I got through all the sets just fine. It felt really good. I even debated about doing an AMRAP set, but that would have been kind of silly, so I let it go with the taper coming up, and we'll just go ahead and test. And looking forward to the testing for sure. Now, deadlifts. These were probably the 3 best deadlifts that I've had, arguably in my entire life, but definitely in a long time. Things are finally starting to come together, and a big credit goes to Lane again. I was talking to him earlier about how I'm super fast off the floor, but my lockout is always kind of weak, and he talked about how it's probably true that I need to go ahead and be slower off the floor on purpose and be more steady with the weight, spread the floor with my legs and really push out and just be slow and methodical through the whole lift, and doing that made a huge difference. I just felt so much better. So before I was just trying to yank it as fast as I could off the floor, and then I'd get stuck and my lockout sucked, and it just wasn't good. So you'll see here after Lane gets done with his little booty dance this is my absolute best rep of all time right here. This 470 felt more like 440 actually. It just flew up and felt really good. And a big part of it has to do with the way I was locking out my knees too soon, probably because of the issues that I was just talking about. But this flew up. Lane talks about afterwards, he tells me that my knees locked out just a shade too early, maybe like a half a second too early. But I think before I was locking out way early, and then I was leaving my back the whole time to get the rest of the weight up, and it wasn't working so well. So big shout out to Lane for the extra tips. It's really helping me tremendously. Just a couple small pieces of advice have really helped my lifting quite a bit. It's really been extremely helpful. So anyways guys, thanks for watching as always, and I will see you guys in the next video.